Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fully Booked, the Hidden Gems author podcast in which Craig Touch and myself, Roland Hume, chat some of the interesting figures and leading lights of this crazy industry of writing and self-publishing. And today we are delighted to welcome a very special guest. She is Liisa Kovala, who is an educator, author, and an author accelerator certified book coach. How are you doing today, Liisa? I love your backdrop. Those are real books back there.
Yeah, that's actually my library here. Well, it's just some of the books that I have. They're also elsewhere in the houses. But yeah, it's a great little space for working and having a podcast.
Absolutely. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, Liisa, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we wouldn't be here without the man himself, Craig Touch, the owner and founder of Hidden Gems and an author himself. How are you doing today, Craig?
Doing great. Thanks, Roland, and welcome, Liisa.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we have talked about this probably over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, in terms of the idea of book coaching and what they're for and what they do for you. So it's a good time to revisit the topic. And it's always useful to talk to someone else about it as well, right? Because you always have different perspectives, work different ways. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and how you became a book coach? And I'm also wondering, when you say certified book coach, what does that really mean? What does it take to become a certified book coach? So
yeah, great question. Well, I was a high school teacher for a very long time until 2022, and I left teaching 5 years before my actual retirement date. As many people did, they kind of pivoted after COVID or during COVID. And I knew I was writing. I had already published. And I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do. I knew I would write, but I thought, okay, I'm not done with my working life. So I still want to earn an income outside of my very small reduced pension. And I came across this organization called Author Accelerator. And, as you do when you find things online, you're thinking, is this for real? Can people actually earn a living as a book coach? I hadn't even heard about the term before. And it turns out that a friend of mine who's here in my hometown had taken the program, which was, really unusual. So I got in touch with her and said, is this legit? Is this something you loved? What's the deal here? And she absolutely loved the program. The certification is sort of intensive training about how to work with clients, about how to work at different stages in the writing process, right up to publishing, like querying and publishing. And this was just my wheelhouse. It was like finding my dream job. I had no idea. So I immediately signed up, as one does, jumped full force and started the program. And it was quite intensive. You work with clients who are sort of your practicum clients. So you work at different sections of, from beginning of the idea, developing your idea, and then the next client you're working with them through the drafting process, and the third client is for the pitching process. So you get a really good overview of all of those places in the process, and then you submit your end results to Author Accelerator. And it's pretty stringent. Not everyone passes the first time. You sometimes have to redo the practicums. I was lucky enough. I got through the first round, which was great. And I was certified and started taking on clients. And it's been absolutely incredible work. The kind of work I think I've always wanted to do and didn't know it was an option until 2022.
Wow. So you're working with Author Accelerator. Do they send you the clients, or you get those yourself?
Everyone who is a certified coach is kind of running their own business. There are referrals from Author Accelerator, so coaches are listed there, and you can kind of look at what genres they work in or what kind of offers they have. So there's a database of us that are certified. I think there's quite a lot of people out there who call themselves book coaches that don't have any training and are just like, oh, I'm going to do this. And you might do well to find somebody like that who's doing good work, but it's hard to know, right? At least with this program, you know that the coaches have gone through this program and really kind of know their stuff. So yeah, we all have our own businesses that we're running and offering different things in different niches. I have a colleague here in Canada who works primarily with romance writers, for instance. And that's all she does. So, romance writers will benefit from just working with somebody that has that very specific niche. Others are a little bit more diverse in terms of who they work with or what kind of genres they work with. So there's a lot of options for folks.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's basically broken into 3 stages then. So idea, drafting, and pitching. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it can depend. So that's for our practicums 100%. We have those sort of 3 areas that kind of covers the whole process. But individual coaches will offer lots of different things. So for instance, I have an 8-week group book coaching class. It actually just started 2 weeks ago. And there's, I think, 7 in this group. And we work through a blueprint for a book process, which is kind of developing your idea and right up to the point where you're outlining. Other folks might have a longer program that might include that outlining and go into drafting. I have clients who are working right from the beginning with just a seed of an idea. I have other clients who come to me with a draft and they want help with revision. They don't know where to go next. They don't know if it's good enough, and they need to kind of pause on that. And other folks are kind of closing in to the end of the process and want a developmental edit or a manuscript evaluation. And so, it really depends on individual coaches in terms of what they offer. I don't tend to work with folks who are pitching, like going through the query process, although I 100% will help my clients who are getting to that stage. But there are some coaches that like really hone in on that and will work through that whole query process with a client. So yeah, it's kind of fun because and I've adapted my programming based on client needs. Sometimes what they're coming in for is maybe not what I was initially offering, but I'm thinking, okay, I want to work with this client. I love this manuscript. Let's design a program based around what that person needs. And so it's really individualistic that way.
And now I was interested, you talk about the pitch process. That seems to be very much slanted towards like the traditional publishing route. Do you ever recommend or have interest or coach people in the self-publishing side of things? Because for romance especially, that's a very viable route.
Yeah. So for me, I have clients who are both interested in traditional publishing. And so I will guide them towards what to expect in that process. But I'm also myself both self-published and traditionally published. So I have a good insight into both of those, the drawbacks of both and the benefits of both. So yes, I do have clients who want to self-publish, and it's fun to just figure out, okay, like what's the way for you to move forward here? What are the platforms? What does promotion look like for you? What's marketing going to be? So those are all things we can kind of work through together. I think the biggest benefit of a book coach is a couple of things. One is accountability, handing pages in and getting the work done, because that's often just sitting down at your desk is a hard part. And so when you have to have pages due like you did when you were in school, you actually will get them done. So that's one thing. But also you have somebody who is really a cheerleader for your book and for you. And so these kind of conversations happen all the time, right? There's kind of an emotional roller coaster sometimes when you're writing a book. There's that initial excitement and you're ready to go. And then there's that kind of like, oh, this is really hard. And it's taking a long time and I can't kind of move forward. And then once you get closer to the end, there's again that kind of revving up about, oh, I might get this published, or I might self-publish and now it might be out in the world. And that each stage has its own challenges. So having a book coach is that support person for you in lots of ways, not just for the manuscript, but also for you emotionally. And that's what I love about it.
That's a really understated fact, I think, because writing is such a weird thing. I mean, I think like Craig and I became friends initially because we were both writing, and it's kind of like most people muggles don't understand this weird world that we inhabit. Right. And so when you have friends who are writers and friends who are actually like taking writing professionally, they're not like writing their endless American novel. They're like, I am going to write, I'm going to publish, I want to be successful. That is a small community, and it's incredibly valuable to have friends in that community.
100%. And that's what I always suggest with anyone, even who has a book coach or a mentor, that you find a community of writers who are doing the same work. It makes you feel less alone. There's a sounding board for you. There's motivation. You really do see that other people are doing the work too and are taking it seriously. And that can really help you. But one of the problems I'm always worried about with with groups, especially critique groups. If the people in your group aren't trained or they don't have the background to give feedback, which people have real difficulty giving good feedback. Like it's either like, oh, it's so good. Your manuscript's so great. I loved it, which is really nice to hear. Like we all want to hear that, but it's not super helpful as a writer. And then there's somebody in the group who's like bashing on all the things, but doesn't really know why they think that way. And it's hard to distinguish what's happening there. So I worry about critique groups. Sometimes I think it's really wise to have a writing group, but I'm not sure that they're the people to give you feedback on your manuscript unless you know them really well, unless you know that they have skills and they have, they've taken courses and maybe they've done a MFA or they've done something to help them develop their skills. Then, okay, sure, you can make those really educated decisions about who you're going to share your manuscript with. But yeah, I've seen some people leave a critique group just devastated by the response but not knowing how to move forward, which isn't helpful. So yeah, we need community of all kinds, and just to be aware that we need to protect ourselves a little bit emotionally, because this is kind of, especially if you're a new writer, it's a really emotionally investing moment, right? And giving it up to somebody else to get feedback on can feel really intimidating. It gets easier as you do it more often, and as you receive more feedback, we kind of get a thicker skin, and we realize this is really about making the manuscript better. But I think initially it can be really hard for new writers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you definitely need a thick skin. I mean, even if you're with the right person who is giving constructive criticism, some people don't want to hear any criticism. They want to hear that their book is amazing,
Right. Yeah.
So
absolutely. No, I think that's really common. And I have had folks, I've beta read for people and, friends and that kind of thing. And sometimes they'll come in, like they'll say, oh, it's completely ready, there's no issues with it. Like in their mind, they really want that to be true, and they've worked so hard on it, and they've revised it, and they've read it and read it and read it, and they can no longer see what's wrong with the manuscript. And outside eyes can really pinpoint things fairly quickly because we haven't seen it before. And that's why I think other readers are really important at different stages in the process. And beta readers are amazing. If you can get a little group of beta readers who are, they care about your manuscript, they care about it being better, they read carefully, and that you direct them in terms of what you're asking them to look for. Like, don't just say, here's my manuscript, and what do you think? Like, that's also not useful. Give them a set list of questions, things that they're looking for in the manuscript, and that will really help. So there's ways to get this feedback that doesn't have to involve a book coach. But if you want to work with a book coach, you kind of get that throughout the process, and that guidance that's really, really useful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we so through Hidden Gems, we have a beta reader service, and it works exactly that way, where the author will submit their manuscript, but they also need to submit a list of questions that they want answered. So it's not just, here's my manuscript, what do you think? And I mean, the problem with that too is, not just beta readers, but just anyone, when you get them to read, you're not necessarily looking for their opinion on, like, the story and whether it resonates with them specifically, but you want problems with the story, problems with your characters, logical issues, setting, stuff that just isn't working as a writer, because they might not agree necessarily, with all the writing decisions you made to create your story. And they can give feedback on that, but that's not the kind of thing that you really need to listen to as much, right? Everybody's sort of
totally agree.
Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense.
Totally agree. Yeah. Well, and that's just it. And usually if I get beta readers for my own work, I pick and choose folks who I know read and write in my genre. So like, I'm not going to give a cozy mystery to somebody who's a hardcore historical fiction writer, although I do both. But because I want that somebody who's reading the cozy to really feel like they know something about that genre. And so they can see where something's falling flat, or where there's sort of holes in the story, or where the character isn't necessarily developed well enough. And because, if you go into sci-fi or something else, it's got its own tropes that need to be addressed. And so we want to make sure that your beta readers are people who can kind of appreciate form. Not that they can't, they can still read it and give good feedback if they don't like your genre, but it is helpful that they have a little background knowledge about it. Which is why when I work with when I work with clients, I'm not working in every single genre necessarily because I'm not familiar with some as much. Although story is story, but it helps if you're kind of it's kind of more in your wheelhouse.
Right. Yeah. Nonfiction as well would be very different than fiction.
Yeah.
You probably want to know a lot about the subject or
100%. Yeah. In my case, I coach memoir and fiction writers, but there's a whole other category of book coaches who do nonfiction. So folks who work with, business industry professionals who want to put out something in their area that will help promote them as experts in their fields. That is not something I do. So those are clients I would say, okay, I know somebody who you can work with, and I'll send them off to somebody else because it's not my thing. And it wouldn't serve them well for me to pretend that it was, right? I just want to work with folks that we connect on the subject matter, but also personally, we feel like we can work together really well. So there's lots of options for folks out there.
Yeah. So people would basically, contact you, tell you a bit about their book, then maybe you meet with them to decide whether it's a good fit and whether you should move forward before you do that, right?
Yeah, most coaches will have some kind of intake form, list of questions to answer, get maybe some sample pages. I always ask for about 10 sample pages. And usually that's followed up by a Zoom call where we can have a conversation. It's equally as important for the client to feel like they're in good hands and feel comfortable with the person they're working with, as it is for the coach to feel like this is a manuscript they can work with and a client they can work with. And not everyone's going to be a good fit, and that's okay. Like you really do want to find somebody you trust and enjoy working with. Like this is often a long-term relationship. Sometimes you might work with somebody for 3 months and they get what they want done and they move on. And sometimes this process is a year or longer. So you really want to be with somebody that you have a good connection with. And that might mean talking to a lot of book coaches, right? Going on a couple of Zoom calls here and there and getting to know a few coaches that you think might be good fits and then making a decision. And I think every book coach is respectful of that because we want the client to find the right person and we want to find the right people to work with too, right? There's only so much time in the day. So we don't want to waste anyone's time. We want everyone to be happy in this endeavor.
And you want, the people, you want to be doing something valuable with your time and you want them to be doing something valuable with your time.
Yes, 100%. This is like, for me personally, it's, a second act in a way, having been a teacher for 25 years. It is a form of teaching in some ways. But it's like taking all the teaching skills I had and just, turning them into working with individuals and sometimes small groups. And I love it so much. And I just value the kind of work that happens when you're working with a client. I just really think it's important that connect. Look, I want to enjoy it too, right? It's not easy. It's not, it's not something you can just jump into with your, not understanding what that is going to look like. It's not, like this with its challenges, but it can be so delightful. And you see this manuscript develop and you see this writer develop and get skills and confidence and, dream about the next one. And it's really delightful to see people transform as you work with them week after week. It's great. So I love working with folks who have that desire to do something maybe that they've always dreamed of doing and, put off. Like I think a lot of us wanted to write from early on and maybe didn't do it right away. We did other things first and the writing kept calling to us. So I've heard that story over and over, right? And a lot of people come to writing a lot later in life because they've been busy with their careers or raising family or whatever that is. And then when they finally have a little bit more space in their life, that book is still waiting for them and they need to write it.
I used to beat myself up all the time because I wanted to be a writer ever since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And I did actually realize that to be a good writer, you also have to have lived a life and done stuff. So,
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
the reason you weren't more successful when you were younger is because you needed to live life and you needed to go through things, and then
I totally agree with you. I was the same. I was reading and writing from a very young age. And in high school, it was my passion. I wrote and wrote and wrote. And then I took English at university and it became all about academic writing. And then at the end of that, it was like, do I do an MFA or do I go to teacher's college where I'm going to get a job? And that little decision meant, oh, I should probably get a job, as you do feel some pressure, right? When you're a young person to go do something that is going to earn you an income and set you on your feet. And I don't regret that at all. But I also, part of me thinks, what would life have looked like had I gone the other way? Probably way more challenging in lots of ways. But I agree with you. Having done all of those other things in my life, and I think other folks would agree, you now have something to write about. You've lived, you've participated in the world, and you're not coming from, like, not to say that 20-year-olds can't write amazing books. They can, it's not that they can't, but I think folks who have done other things over their lifetime just have this wealth of knowledge and understanding of human interactions and communication styles and conflict and tension, and they can infuse it all into their work. Get it out.
Absolutely. And there's also that part, you feel less shame, and you're older.
Yes.
You're like, I remember when I gave my parents a copy of my book that I'd never done, and it had explicit sex in it. And I just got to a stage where it's like, you know what, screw it.
Yeah, right. And probably your parents at at that stage are also like, like normal, right? It's all good. Like, parents just don't talk about that with their kids, but then you realize, oh, they're just like everybody else too. They're all having sex as well.
My mother said, well, I never, and I said, you must have.
At least once.
I'm not even as mature as you guys. I wrote a lot of romance books, and I still have never told my mother my pen name. So
I love it. Does she know you're writing it?
Oh yeah. Oh no, she knows. Well, I haven't in a while. Like, I like you guys. I didn't start till I was in my 40s. And it was the same thing. I was writing and reading through high school. I went to university for writing, but I became disillusioned. I didn't love the writing program,
right?
And mainly because it was similar to, it sounds like yours, but you embraced that side of it where it was like more academic writing. It was more literary writing, and it wasn't really the genre writing that I wanted to do.
Yes.
And so I switched off and I changed careers completely. And then I came back to it, when I was in my 40s, and wrote, a lot of romance novels and never showed her any of them. And then I started in gems and sort of haven't written as much lately. But that's sort of like the background, and it's very similar. Like you said, I hear that story from a lot of people.
Yeah, it's incredible. I have a secret question about whether your mother possibly has read your books and just hasn't told you.
No, she absolutely
if I
hasn't.
was your mom, I'd be like, get me a copy of that.
She's asked a number of times, but I'm like, there's no chance. But she's not much of a reader anyway, so
That's
I don't
fair.
think, but
She's proud of you, even though she hasn't read it.
No, she tells people, but then she has no proof to back it up, and that's fine.
I love that so much.
So you were saying, like, in your 8-week group thing, you go through the blueprint and outlining. So, but you don't actually, I guess, get to the writing part of it. But I guess in your one-on-one, you do the writing. Do you read, the pages as well? Like, you read the whole book, or you just sample,
so we end up doing it as, like, for individual clients, if they're working with me on revising or writing a first draft, where they're submitting 20 to 25 pages to me every 2 weeks, and I'm giving feedback on the pages, and I'm giving them an editorial letter, and then we have a Zoom call. So every 2 weeks, I'm looking at pages, feedback, and then a call about it and discussion about moving forward, and then we repeat that process. So you can really have within many months a draft done if you're doing 50 pages, 40, 50 pages a month. So that's really valuable. But I think what's nice about it is you're getting feedback along the way that then when you go back to the revision process, you have all of that, where you're headed. And what I'm finding is folks who get their initial pages to me, there is they're on a learning curve, right? So they're developing craft, they're figuring out how to tell story, how to create scenes, all the things. And then as the pages go down, 100, 150 pages, whatever it is, you see that they're soaking everything up, and their pages are getting better, and story is developing better, and they have a better use of craft. So that there's progress, not just in getting pages down, but also in how they're telling their story. And then when they go back to the beginning again, I think somebody said once, "Oh, I hear your voice in my head." Like, I've said the same thing several times with her, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I need to this, that, the other thing." So that's good. Like when it's kind of a success story when they no longer really need you as much, because they're hearing it and they can see what they need to do in the scenes. So I kind of love that.
Yeah. I pulled up the Author Accelerator page, and right on the front page is an image, I guess, of different book coaches.
Yeah.
And I noticed one thing stuck out is they're all women. Are there any male book
Yes,
coaches?
there are. There
Okay,
actually
they're
are.
just not in the picture.
No, it's really funny. I think that's a fairly old picture, because I think it's the same one as when I first joined too. That was, I guess they had some kind of in-person event. There are male book coaches 100%. And but I'm going to say that the vast majority are women. And I'm not sure why that is, because we need male book coaches too. I don't get it, but there are definitely.
Well, I mean, most women write more than men, don't they? I mean, the vast majority of women.
Yes, I don't know. Do we have stats on that? I'm not sure. Like, it feels true.
I know that 84% of people who work in traditional publishing are women. So there we go.
So maybe there is, like, statistically, the number of book coaches that are men, it's sort of maybe aligned to that. I'm not sure. That would be fascinating though. And I wonder why. Why is that? But yeah, they're successful. I love to see their work, and the genres they work in, and yeah, it's just fascinating. I don't know.
I think women read a lot more than men as well.
Yeah, I think that might be true. And I feel like as a high school teacher, that was definitely something I saw, like that plays out in the stats for high school students. And that was always something I was trying to, how do I engage the guys? How do I find books that they will love? What can I suggest for them? And then when you found the right kind of books to have in your classroom, then they got engaged, and then they were recommending those books to other folks that they knew in the class or in other classes. So it was just trying to find the right materials for them. Like, they weren't into all the things. So I don't know. That was a challenge. So I kind of feel
it's so interesting because you come as a teacher. So like I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and it's funny. It's like my 2 boys, my eldest has now got into reading, and it was a couple of The Great Gatsby. Yeah, for something that resonated with him. But my middle child, he finds it so frustrating because the books he's meant to read in school, he just has no interest in. And then we'll buy him like Star Wars novels, big, thick Star Wars novels written by like Hugo Award-winning authors, and he'll devour them.
Yeah,
so
amazing. It's really not about not wanting to read it. It's finding the right materials, for sure. And in my program, in my school, we were lucky enough not to have to do like, I love the classics, don't get me wrong, and I taught them for years and years, and we had the same curriculum for years. But then in the last few years, we started doing a program kind of based on Penny Kittle from the States, her program, and it was allowing students to choose their own books. And that was a game changer, because then kids would read a ton of books that they loved and could speak about. And that was amazing. And I did see the boys starting to read as much as the girls, because they got to read what they wanted to read. And I wasn't pushing, I don't know, To Kill a Mockingbird down their throat, although that's an amazing book. And once they read it, they love it, but they're not ready necessarily for it right away. So I think that's kind of the thing. But I would love to see more male book coaches, 100%. That would be amazing.
Yeah. No, maybe I'll look into that. So how do you find your clients? So, I mean, you obviously you set up a web page and you have a business like we all do, but obviously, it's not that easy, especially if there's lots of book coaches out there. How do you find the people. And hopefully word of mouth works for you, right? If you're doing a good job, that's always, but when you're starting, how do you find those people?
Yeah, I think when I was starting, it was definitely the first small groups I had were people I knew. We have a pretty robust writing community here in my city, and we have a writer's guild. So there was a lot of people who joined that way. And so it was that just getting started in those small ways, building up sort of a reputation, letting people know that you're doing it, because that's the thing. Like, if people don't know you're doing it, then how are they going to find you? And then slowly I started getting clients from outside my circle of writers. And that's when you think, okay, something's working. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I'm not sure how much those things impact at all, if they do, because the algorithms are so strange. You don't know who is even seeing your posts. I do think Substack was a game changer for me. I started a podcast there. I have a women writing features, and I started getting clients through that. And I think it's that they were receiving newsletters from me fairly regularly. And that also builds up that kind of trust and getting to know who I am and feeling like they're comfortable with me. So I highly recommend a newsletter. It doesn't have to be Substack necessarily, but a newsletter that goes to individuals in their inbox. You can't, they might not read them, but they have that option to check out what you're doing, and how, you can have offers there as well as whatever content you're sharing with them. And that helps, develop your expertise and their confidence in you. And so I think that's been a really important thing that I wasn't quite aware of as a new author. I'd heard you need a newsletter, and I kind of maybe did one every 4 months. So I really had a very tiny list. Now I have a good sized newsletter, and and you can really interact and get to know people there in a more authentic way, I think. So but that is definitely the challenge for authors and for book coaches or anyone who has a small business. How do you get yourself out there? How do you let people know what you're doing? And I think you just have to try all the things. And if anyone knows the magic bullet, just tell me, email me.
And I imagine, in terms of pricing, it's got to be probably different depending on the coaches and such. I don't know if Author Accelerator suggests, how you price the different services. But so how does that work? And what sort of things are I guess throughout the process, maybe you have packages, or maybe it's how much time, the 8-week course is a group course. Maybe that's cheaper than an individual one-on-one. And is it per session, or blocks of time? How does that all work?
Yeah, I think that's really individualistic for each coach. Especially a newer coach will probably have lower fees to start. I definitely had pretty low fees at the beginning just to get started, just to get my name out there. And then there are coaches that are, working with authors who are sort of at a whole other scale in their career, and they're charging a lot more. So you can almost pay anything for services depending on the coach. So definitely do your research there. Know your own budget. You don't want to blow the budget. Especially if you're self-publishing and you've got to do a cover and you've got to do layout and all the things. So know your budget, know what you want from a book coach. So group book coaching, especially shorter ones, tend to be, in my case at least, less expensive, more accessible. It's a little less one-to-one. So there is, still eyes on pages and feedback and conversation, but a little less so because you're working with a group. Whereas working one-on-one, it's more high touch. You have fewer of those clients, and you're working really intensely on those manuscripts. So that tends to be, maybe in my case, I'll have a 3-month package that somebody will sign on to. And then after that, it's month to month, and they can make that decision if they want to continue or not. I work with a lot of women who are a little bit older and have other commitments, such as grandchildren, and they go on family trips in the summer. And, I had somebody go on a cruise. I'm like, yeah, 100% go on that cruise. For sure. So they might take a little break once in a while to go do the thing. And that's fine with me. I think other folks might be a little less flexible about that, but I think we have to live our lives. And yes, it's nice if we can be writing all the time, but I think if you want to go to the Mediterranean, sure, you go. Like, in fact, bring me. I'd like to be there.
Bring me too.
Yeah,
We're great.
right.
We'll all go.
That's right. We should just go on a writing cruise. That would be fun.
Oh, yeah.
I'll organize that.
So they're paying, a certain amount of money. Obviously, you can't guarantee any success, and especially with it was self-publishing. It's very hard. There's a lot that goes into it, even if you have a great book, into whether or not you can succeed. So do authors do you have a conversation with them to sort of set expectations and be like, hey, listen, you're going to pay me whatever. There's no guarantee you'll ever see that money back. Obviously, it would be great.
100%. That's a really important conversation to have. There are just no guarantees in publishing. And every once in a while I have an author who says, oh, I'm going to write this book and I'm going to get an agent, I'm going to get it published. And I'm like, okay, let's just pause right there. Let's talk about the realities of what that looks like and how many people are looking for agents and how many people are getting traditionally published. And for instance, memoir, we all believe our stories are so significant, and they really are, but it doesn't mean a traditional publisher wants them unless you're like, I don't know, somebody in politics or a movie star or a pop star or whatever. Like our everyday memoirs might be really significant and moving, but a traditional publisher is probably not going to take them. So we have those really honest conversations about what this can look like. And I think anyone who's wants to learn and is invested in becoming better, they're willing to spend money on education. So in my case, I did a creative at the University of Toronto. I did the I'm just blanking on the name, School of Continuing Studies Creative Writing Certificate, and then I did the Humber School for Writers postgraduate certificate. And I never thought, oh, am I going to get my money back here? It was really about education, right? It was about learning to be a better writer, about getting feedback. So this is just one more avenue of many that writers can take to increase their skills. But like you say, there's just you can't kind of make a spreadsheet with this is how much I spent on education and then expect that it's going to balance out when you sell all those copies of your book. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, of course, there are some very highly successful authors, both traditionally and self-published, who do very well, but sometimes that's the outlying situation, right? That most authors are kind of in that middle group where they're doing okay, but maybe have to hold down another job or whatever it is. So being really realistic, I think, is important. It's not suggesting to anyone that, oh, this is going to make you whatever. No, it's going to help you move your project forward. It's going to help you get pages done. It's going to help you get to the end of the project. It's going to give you feedback. It's going to improve your writing. It will give you hopefully some skills in terms of getting a routine in your writing. Not necessarily having to write every day, but just having it as part of your life. And that emotional support, which I think is so important for folks. So, never ever suggest that anyone get a book coach with the thought that, oh, I will get a book deal. No, don't. And if anyone promises you that, run away. Run away.
Absolutely. Do you find that most authors are coming in realistic, or are they basically thinking that this is their ticket?
I think most are realistic about what they're in for. And then there's somebody who thinks it's going to be faster than it is, that they're going to be able to write the book faster, that they will be able to do a draft and then polish it up and off it goes. No, that's not realistic. And the query process alone is so time consuming. And then even if you do get a request for a full, that's another wait for that. And then if you do get a contract with a publisher or an agent, let's say you get a contract with a publisher, you're looking at another 2 to 3 year wait before that book goes out. So, just the whole process from beginning of writing a book to possibly putting it out with a trad publisher is years and years and years. If you're self-publishing, it still takes years to write a book, but getting it out there can be sped up. But now you need to also hire other professionals, right? You need an editor, you need a great cover, you need to think about promoting and marketing. So there's so many things to think about, not to dissuade anyone from doing the work, because we love it and it's fantastic and it's lovely to have that book in your hands. But it is work. It's not, you can't just like, oh, I want to write a book and think it's just going to happen in months, right?
I mean, I think it's madness. I think no one should go into writing a book thinking they're going to make tons of money. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to write books because writers are like rats. If rats don't keep gnawing, then their incisors will go into their brain and kill them. So they have to gnaw all the time. Writers need to write all the time. Otherwise, they'll go crazy. And then it just so happens that if you follow the process of successful self-publishing, you can actually make an income or even a living from it. But there are much easier ways. I mean, you could rent out washers and dryers, or you could do power cleaning or something like that.
Yeah, I love that example of the rat. I'm going to have that image in my head for the rest of the day because it's true. And
you're welcome.
I know for myself, if I've been spending too much time doing other things than writing, I feel it in my body. Like I'm just off. I'm grumpy. I'm like a little bit like snap back a bit. And then I think, oh yeah, I know what I should be doing. Like I just need that time. And for whatever reason, mentally, it just helps me with all the other tasks. And it's not that I write every day, I don't, but it's so part of my weekly routine to have my writing time that I know I have to have it. Whereas, folks who do other things, like they're missing out on that. Like I can see that rat image, like how terrible.
Well, I know, like when you have that undisturbed time and you're really passionate about what you're writing on, and you go into like that flow state where you spend 6 hours on it, but it seems like 6 minutes. And when you finally finish, you're like, I really need to go to the bathroom and my stomach's rumbling. Yes. But having written it so satisfying, it's almost like you want to have a cigarette afterwards.
Yes. And so my question is, do you have difficulty sitting down to write, even though you know you're going to feel all those good things after?
Yes, but that's because I have 3 kids and an Italian wife.
Right. And I think that's true, though, right? Like, I think the sitting down to writing is so challenging, even though we know the benefits. Like, it's like exercise. We don't want to go to the gym, but we know it's going to be so good for us, and we're going to feel great, and we're going to sleep better, and we're going to whatever. But it's just that the getting to it. So that's kind of part of it. I think if you can find a writing group or people who are write together. There's lots of places online that you can go to write with other people and set that time aside for yourself. That can be really valuable, because then it's like almost like it's that mirroring thing, right? Other people are doing it. So, oh, okay, that's what we're doing here, and I'll do it. Whereas if you're by yourself, you might be more likely to sit on the couch and watch Netflix for a while and, think, well, I should be writing. I should be doing
and listen, people have to think about it in terms of, like a job or like anything else, where it's like, if you want to do it, you got to schedule the time, put it in your calendar, put it in the calendar, block it off, block that time off, and have it send you a reminder and be like, so that at least you feel guilty, be like,
Absolutely.
oh, I'm supposed to be writing right now.
And whatever,
don't just leave it to whenever I have free time. Right?
You can't. And I love the idea that's what I always suggest too, is put it in the calendar. It's an appointment with yourself. Don't block anybody else's time off there. Like, that's for you. And if you can't do it at home because you're distracted by kids and other things, and I don't know, vacuuming, I don't know, like go to a coffee shop, go somewhere else. Here, I do a lot of writing sessions with folks online. So it's just that time, close the door, and I'm in the office and we're online and we're writing together. And I totally agree, because if you just kind of wait till you feel like it, it's not going to happen. And I just don't believe in, I want people to be inspired, but don't wait for inspiration. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't wait till you feel like writing. No. Yeah. Show up even if you're feeling like crap, because you'll be able to write. You'll be able to come up with ideas, and you'll feel so much better afterward. And yeah, sure, some writing sessions may not be as good as the next one, but don't wait until you're, sorry, my dog's barking, until you're ready to do it. Just do it, right? Show up before you're ready.
And the more often you do it, the more of a habit it will become, and the more it'll be easier every time after that to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really admire the folks who write every day at a certain time of day, and they have that kind of pattern. That works for a lot of people. And if you can make that happen for yourself, there is a real comfort in that day to day, knowing what your day, at 9 till noon or whatever it's going to be. But a lot of us just haven't been able to do that, whether they're working during the day or they have different shift work or they have kids and activities to drive to. Look, I remember riding in my car when my kids were in classes in the evening at sports or whatever. I rode in gyms. I rode at dance studios. I did whatever I could to fit that little bit of time in. And I think that's the other thing is you don't need 3 hours. You need 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Like just get yourself a cup of coffee and sit and write for 15 minutes. And then hopefully that turns into something longer, or later in the day, you get another 50 minutes or 20 minutes. But you don't need big blocks of time. You just need to sit down to it. And that can happen in little chunks. And you'll be amazed at how much can actually come up. Oh, I'm sorry. My dog is losing her mind.
Well, no, I'll tell you what it is. Your dog knows that we have reached the top of the hour. And your dog is like, Liisa, we need to go for a walk and have
time to go outside. It's walk time. And that's good too. Make sure that you're writing, take your breaks and get outside and get some air and walk, because that's an amazing thing for writers.
Absolutely. Well, Liisa, it has been wonderful speaking to you. Can you tell everyone who's listening or watching where they can find out more about you?
Yeah, so I'm at liisakovala.bookcoach.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook with Liisa Kovala as well. And also Liisa Kovala womenwriting.substack.com. I have a podcast called Women Writing, and I have a women writing circle where people write together. And I feature women who are doing this hard work of writing and finding time and space to do it. So I really appreciate this. This has been really fun, you guys.
Oh, it's been wonderful to speak to you. Of course, if you are listening or watching and you've enjoyed what Liisa has shared with us today, we will pop that link down in the description down below. So scroll down there, give that a click and go and check out her website. You will pass that big empty comment box. Make sure you leave a comment and let Liisa know how much you appreciated everything she shared with us today. Or just give a comment about, when do you get time to write? When do you not get time to write? What is your excuse about not writing? But we always love to read those. And there's also that like button and that subscribe button and that little bell icon that will get you notified every time there is a new episode of Fully Booked. And of course, there will be a brand new episode of Fully Booked next week. So until then, cheerio.